Hey everyone, and welcome to this new segment, Take 10, where we do the tried and true thing here on YouTube and list our favourite movie related things because, let's face it, we all love a good list. While no acclaimed horror film is perfect, okay, The Shining and Halloween come pretty close, but an average or even terrible film can still offer a moment of distinction. This list acknowledges a selection of moments within those horror movies that don't often make your average moviegoer's list of favourites. Now please be aware I do not label any of these films as bad per se. This is purely a selection of moments from horror films that didn't achieve an overwhelming critical response for one reason or another. So that said, I give you 10 standout moments in underwhelming horror films. Now I can't go mentioning key moments without discussing the occasional pivotal plot points, so please consider this your spoiler warning henceforth. Let's begin.
Hello?
Hello?
Who's this?
Who's this?
Number 10. 100% Cotton, Scream 3. Drew Barrymore's introduction in Scream has earned its place in film lore, and Scream 2's opening almost did it justice. However, Scream 3 offers up a pretty effective intro of its own. Exonerated of murdering Sidney Prescott's mother, Cotton Weary is now something of a celebrity, enjoying the perks of being a TV personality, which includes random phone calls from dedicated female fans.
Cotton Weary.
I do, huh?
Yeah, I think he's got a really sexy voice.
Or so we think. We soon discover that this caller is in fact a new ghost face calling from inside Cotton Weary's house. Stuck in peak hour, Cotton is forced to race home before his girlfriend becomes the killer's next victim. Intercutting between Cotton's reckless navigation through traffic as this new killer stalks his girlfriend, the scene combines the usual Scream formula with an unexpected action scene. The ability for the killer to now imitate anyone adds a fresh new twist to Roger Jackson's welcome return as the Ghostface voice. The scene works simply because all the ingredients of a great Scream opener is on display, with enough novelty to defy one's expectations. Despite the absence of Kevin Williamson, who wrote the first two Scream films, new screenwriter Erin Kruger and the late Wes Craven combined to give Scream 3 at least a memorable opening.
Now, you lose.
Number 9. Violet's Groovy Moves, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. A year after the supposed final chapter, Paramount reneged on its promise to end the Friday the 13th franchise with A New Beginning. Tommy Jarvis, the now adult killer of psychopath Jason Voorhees, arrives at a halfway house for troubled teens. When one of the residents is murdered by a fellow inmate, a new hockey mask wearing killer arrives on the scene. Is it Jason back from the dead? New arrival Tommy Jarvis, or somebody else? Often called the black sheep of the Friday the 13th franchise, many fans do acknowledge the death of goth girl Violet as a standout moment, purely because her demise is preceded by a nifty 2-minute breakdancing sequence. Rocking out to Pseudo Echo while being stalked by, spoiler alert, Pseudo Jason, actress Tiffany Helm performs a mix of, in her own words, pantomime and the robot, before being stabbed by Friday 5's copycat killer. The song His Eyes is infectious and appropriate, and no bias here simply because they're an Australian group. The scene also tries to build some semblance of suspense. Well, as much suspense as one can expect from a Friday the 13th film. Love or hate A New Beginning, the scene seems to have resonated with Friday fans, earning a small cult following. Maybe Violet just struck a chord with the youth of the 1980s, or maybe this scene made this list because I had a bit of a crush on her as a kid. Moving on. Number 8. Flaming Finale, Firestarter. Stephen King's other tale about a girl with destructive mind powers didn't translate quite as well to the screen as Brian De Palma's Carrie. The film, however, does feature a noteworthy cast, a killer musical score by Tangerine Dream, and some jaw-dropping pyrotechnics. Drew Barrymore plays Charlie McGee, a girl with the ability to turn anything she wants into kindling by sheer willpower. Naturally, she and her telepathic father Andy are pursued by a government agency out to exploit them. You know, because governments are complete Firestarter's standout moment is in fact its final scene, with Charlie and her father being recaptured while on the brink of escaping. Charlie's dad is fatally shot by George C. Scott's Rainbird, and in his dying moments commands Charlie to let their tormentors know that this is war. And let them know she does. Marching her way to freedom, Charlie launches a literal hellfire at her captors, whom scurry away into the night as human fireballs. Barrymore delivers a convincing performance as she consoles her dying father in an admittedly touching sequence, while the action and pyrotechnics make at least Firestarter's finale an enjoyable guilty pleasure.
For you, Daddy.
Number 7. Sean's Rescue, Jaws 2. 4 years after Chief Brody successfully ended the rampage of the killer shark in Steven Spielberg's seminal masterpiece Jaws, the inevitable sequel becomes a teen slasher at sea, with the Brody family facing off with yet another giant fish. This time a 30-foot shark terrorizes a group of ocean-loving teenagers, where our standout scene sees 10-year-old Sean Brody reluctantly tagged along by his older brother Michael and his friends on an unsupervised sailing trip. When Sean is thrown into the water during an attack, a young lady who seems to have taken the role of Sean's surrogate big sister bravely dives in to save him, boosting Sean onto an upturned boat. However, when she attempts to reach safety herself, she is quite literally obliterated by the massive shark right in front of the eyes of the pre-adolescent Sean. Even the infamous rubber shark can't spoil the moment. The scene is covered by clever angles to disguise the mechanical beast, once again proving what is left to our imagination is far more impactful.
It's time. The party's over.
Number 6. Tina Gets Plastered, Tourist Trap. Never heard of Tourist Trap? Well, that's not surprising considering it bombed at the box office. Director David Schmoller's nightmarish tale favoured atmosphere over graphic violence, resulting in the MPAA branding this underrated thriller with a PG rating. Chuck Connors plays Mr. Slauson, whose roadside museum features some oddly lifelike mannequins. It may sound familiar, a la House of Wax, yet the film offers its own unique living nightmare. Tourist Trap's noteworthy scene features a young woman strapped to a table as she is mannequinized, in a moment that would challenge anyone's most claustrophobic fears. I'm also looking at you, Kill Bill Volume 2. As our masked antagonist applies plaster to the young woman's face, he cheerfully informs his hapless victim about how she will die.
Your heart will burst from fright before you lose consciousness.
While the rest of the film creates an eerie atmosphere, some bizarre moments and an effective if quirky musical score, this scene remains in the memory as a particularly nasty movie moment.
Now, you are one of us.
Positions, everyone stay calm.
What's that?
Number 5. Lightsaber Tunnel, Resident Evil. Video game to film translations often disappoint, yet the first Resident Evil film is still better than most, offering up a stylish scene here and a grisly moment there. Alice, played by Mila Jovovich, joins a band of sanitation commandos to infiltrate the corrupt Umbrella Corporation after its central computer kills everybody inside. Attempting to shut down the mainframe, 4 team members find themselves trapped inside a tunnel, when the security system ultimately cottons on to their intentions. Panic ensues as the remaining crew attempt to deactivate the system outside, while their unfortunate colleagues are forced to play dodgeball with a laser pursuing them inside the narrow corridor. The laser slices each team member like butter, as its pathway becomes increasingly unpredictable, before transforming into a grid that literally dices the last man standing. Some tight camera work and brisk editing heighten the tension, creating an effective sense of panic and claustrophobia, all to the tune of an aggressive soundtrack. While not shying away from the gore, the horrific fate of the final victim is cleverly implied by some inventive camera work, proving once again that less is indeed more. Number 4. Eva Claims Jaffrey, Ghost Story. This 1981 adaptation of Peter Straub's novel was fairly hit and miss despite its cast of legends and eerie atmosphere. Ghost Story sees 4 elderly men haunted by a secret from their youth that resulted in the drowning of a young woman 50 years prior. However, secrets don't stay buried forever, as the four men are picked off by her avenging spirit. However, it's the fate of Dr. Jaffrey, played by Melvyn Douglas, that earns its place on this list. Stricken with what appears to be a heart attack, the doctor frantically searches for his medication, as his loyal housekeeper innocently tells him that a patient, bearing the name of his long-deceased victim, awaits him downstairs.
Galley. She said her name was something. Galley. Odd sort of clothes.
While previous appearances of the avenging ghost seem to be more for shock value, there's a sense of impending doom in this scene, as Jaffrey seems to know that Eva's claim for him is imminent. When hearing her gentle call for him, the deathly ill Jaffrey reluctantly turns to face his ghostly tormentor, where he defiantly yet pathetically attempts to scold her. Eva's beautiful apparition then transforms into a grotesque corpse, screaming back at the good doctor, whose final shot in the film is unquestionably harrowing.
All right, roll it.
Number 3. The test sequence, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Another franchise black sheep, with this unrelated sequel disappointing fans with the absence of its central villain, Michael Myers. However, this once reviled Halloween follow-up has many moments worth a mention, yet none so much as the infamous test sequence. Silver Shamrock Novelties has emerged as the go-to company for Halloween masks, bombarding potential customers with an infuriating television campaign, sporting the single most annoying jingle in the history of ever.
4 days to Halloween.
Turn that down.
When Dr. Chalice, played by Tom Atkins, teams up with the daughter of a murdered salesman, their investigation leads them to, you guessed it, the Silver Shamrock Company, where its founder, Connell Cochran, has devised a wicked plan to return Halloween to its Celtic roots. Cochran offers Dr. Chalice a sneak peek of his plot to sacrifice the American kids on Halloween night, confining toy salesman Buddy Kupfer and his family in a room under seemingly innocuous pretenses. Observing from a TV monitor, Chalice is forced to watch the family perish at the hands of a booby-trapped Halloween mask worn by the obnoxious 12-year-old Little Buddy. As the family watch, the mask appears to melt the boy's head, triggered by a turbocharged version of that annoying Silver Shamrock jingle. Chalice and the boy's parents watch in horror as an army of bugs and rattlesnakes emerge from the deceased child, with his helpless parents meeting their demise soon after. As absurd as it sounds, the execution is no less effective. Little Buddy may be an insufferable little crotch goblin, yet the taboo of killing an otherwise innocent child on screen is no less shocking.
Something is trying to get inside my body.
Yeah, and she's female and she's waiting for you in the cabana. And you want to sleep with me.
Number 2. Freddy Comes Out. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Defying the established logic of the original, this time Freddy Krueger ventures into the real world to possess new Elm Street resident Jesse to perform some rather wicked acts of carnage. While still rehashing a little of the first film, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 takes on a more sinister tone, with possibly the darkest portrayal of Robert Englund's Freddy before further sequels turned him into a wisecracking clown. Our standout scene features Jesse finding solace with his best mate Grady, whom he begs to watch over him as he takes a well-needed nap. Soon after drifting off, however, he awakens as Freddy literally emerges from inside him. Watching helplessly, the typically self-assured Grady is reduced to a screaming wreck as he finds himself trapped, crying out for his parents before Freddy literally chokes the life out of him. While the scene is graphic enough on surface level to appease horror fans, looking a little deeper and understanding the subtext that's on display here, the scene takes on a far deeper meaning. Which brings us to, yes, that aspect of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Screenwriter David Chaska now admits the homoerotic undertones of which this film has become famous were intentional. Openly gay actor Mark Patton was apparently instructed by his agent to keep his sexuality a secret. At the same time, his character of Jesse appears to analogize such repressed feelings within this scene. Jesse ultimately sees Freddy as a reflection of himself in the bedroom mirror, perhaps representing the confusion and self-loathing that someone with a closeted sexual identity may relate to, especially within a far less tolerant era. Number 1. Not Your Everyday Jehovah's Witness. Poltergeist 2, The Other Side. Two sure ways to scare the kids are evil clowns and creepy old people, and the first two Poltergeist films have got you covered on both. Having survived the hauntings of the first film, Poltergeist 2 now sees the lovable Freeling family taking refuge with Diane's mother. However, when the hauntings start over, we discover the mastermind behind their troubles is Reverend Henry Kane, the ghost of a 19th century doomsday cult leader that coerced his followers into a tomb to die, and now spend their afterlife in the pursuit of the angelic Carol Ann. Our standout moment sees the cadaverous preacher cheerfully singing a church hymn as he approaches the Freeling house, greeting the family with the kind of demeanour one would expect from a used car salesman, and as such comes across just as trustworthy. Sensing something is amiss, Steve confronts the preacher where a psychological battle ensues. Kane's jovial manner turns sour as he attempts to gain entry to the Freeling home. Kane appears to call Steve out on his apparent weakness as the family protector. Yet when it comes apparent that Steve simply isn't buying it, the undead preacher lets loose a chilling warning to the household.
You're gonna die in there! All of you! You are gonna die!
Late actor Julian Beck, who was in the final stages of stomach cancer while filming, utterly steals the movie with his, albeit brief, sign-off performance, creating a villain that even Poltergeist 2's most scathing critics would never forget.
Pleasure visiting you.
I really hope you enjoyed this segment, everyone. If you have any moments from critically maligned horror films that you want to share with me, I would love to hear from you, so leave me a comment. While you're down there, if you want to like, share, subscribe and do all that stuff, that'd be sweet. I will be back in a couple of weeks with a new retrospective, but in the meantime, be good to yourselves and each other. Catch up with you soon.